with fondness and wishing you a Merry Christmas from Grandad in 1976. Isn't that beautiful? So I was 5 back then. And what I remember about my granddad particularly was he was the one that bought the books. But Grandma was the one that actually told me all the stories. And she was a big woman. And I think about, Biggest Loser and all those shows we've got on now. Back when my grandma, when I was a kid, we didn't have all that. Grandmas were supposed to be those big, wonderful women who had massive big pussies that you could just and she had one of those traditional really high beds, and we used to, Pa used to snore really badly, but we used to get into bed with Grandma and you could just snuggle into the whole of her, and she used to just tell stories. There was 4 kids in our family and we all fit into that beautiful big bed. So when I was preparing for today, I was thinking about how important stories are to us, and going back to the very beginning of when I first started to hear stories. And when I think about our culture and our workplace, I think about things like how the stories that we have in our workplace actually build the culture of our workplace. You think about your workplace. Do you know stories of old crusty old men who did stuff, or the villains in the workplace, or there's stories of the old CEO and the way it used to be around here, and there's stories of the future as well that we actually share in our organisations. There's stories that are held and talked about around the water cooler. And there's casual conversations when we go to fill up our water bottles. There's stories not in the lift, because you don't talk in the lift, but there's stories outside the lifts when you're walking around and connecting. And so what I started to discover, and what I started to listen to, and this is what I'll encourage you to do today, is start to listen to the stories. Now, I don't mean like all the blah, blah, how bad it is around here, my management doesn't do this, and this is impossible. I'm not talking about those stories. I'm talking about the stories that are actually running the culture of the organisation. And all of a sudden, when you listen, things start to get a bit more interesting. And particularly if you're leading your organisation, or you're a leader, everyone's leading in organisations, but particularly if you're trying to introduce change in your organisation or build a culture that you're really proud of, then it's wonderful to be able to just listen to those stories. Because as a mentor of mine told me, the story is where the gift is, but the story is where the real action is actually happening in your workplaces. So have a think about it. Where is the real action actually happening in your workplace? It's happening around the water cooler. It's happening on the way to board meetings. It's happening around the lift. It's happening in the toilets. The girls' toilets, not the boys' toilets. It's happening in these places, and what people are sharing in those places is actually, I believe, what is either creating our culture in our workplaces or actually destroying it. And we have this amazing opportunity actually to create stories within our workplace that actually empower and inspire us as well. So let me tell you a little story. And I want to share with you also which story you may be interested in, which story in this book, because it is my favourite book, which story is the one that I loved as a kid. And I'll tell you the reason why I loved it too. Should I tell you now, or should I hold it out like as a mystery or something? Who wants to know which one now? Yeah, okay. All right, so the story is The Ugly Duckling. But it's not as you may imagine it, because it wasn't that I was an ugly duckling or anything like that well, I hope I wasn't anyway, as a kid. So I'll tell you why The Ugly Duckling. When I read this, I think my grandma in my second dream was saying, go back and read the stories in this book. And I went, all right, which one do you want me to read? And it was The Ugly Duckling. So I'll share with you what that was all about. But anyway, let me tell you the story. So once upon a time, in corporate land, or in a land that we may be familiar with or even live in today, there were three very special people, and they had a vision for the way they wanted their workplaces to be. The way they wanted the culture of their workplaces to be. And there was one particular old man, and he was going for a bit of a walk around the office, and he walked up to the water cooler, and he heard the conversations at the water cooler, and they went something like this: you know what? This is the last time I'm ever going to try this. Every time we put something up to management, they knock it back. Management don't listen, they don't understand. And they turned around. They turned around to the old man, and they said, "Old man, what do you think?" And he said, "I believe in creating workplaces, and I believe in creating culture within our organisation that we can be truly proud of." And of course, with that, they just went, "Silly old fool! Like what a silly old baby boomer." So he moved on. Off he went. He went back to his workstation. At about the same time, there was a young bright spark, and he headed into the men's toilets, and there's a few colleagues of his sort of having a bit of a chuckle in the men's toilets. I've never been to men's toilets, so I'm not even going to demonstrate what that might look like. So anyway, but they weren't. No, I've gone like no. I'm giving you too many visuals. Anyway, so what they were looking at on the wall was someone had written on the wall, and they had written TJF. The job is fire truck. And they were laughing because they'd just written it on the wall, and they were like, "Yeah, pretty cool." And they said to the young man, they said, "What do you reckon about that? What do you reckon is pretty good, eh?" That's like, I'm trying to imitate a YGen, which is a ridiculous thing to try to do as well. They're like, "It's pretty good, hey." They wouldn't even say that, would they? Where are my YGens? That's fully sick. So, or as you do at the skate park, epic. So if you hear me drop an epic every now and again, I'm just trying to bond with my younger generation. Okay, anyway, I'm distracted, right. So they wrote that on the wall. They turned to the guy and said, "What do you think about that? What do you think about that, mate?" And he said to them, "I believe in creating workplaces and cultures that we can be really proud of." And they just went, "You've lost your mind." And they laughed at him and off they went. And, believe it or not, at about the same time, a senior woman walked into her CEO's office, and she said, "I have a vision, actually, for how we can create a workplace that we can be really proud of, if you would only listen to me." And the CEO said, "I've got no time for that. And in fact, I need to give you some feedback. If you could just focus on what's most important, which is delivering the bottom line, then things would be a lot better around here." And with that, she actually walked out of the office. She was completely deflated. Here was her CEO that had delivered that message to her. But as she walked out of the office into the corridor, as we do, she bumped into the old man, and she bumped into the young man. And she said to them, it sounds like that joke, doesn't it? "Hello, old man. Hello, young man. Why the long faces?" And they said, "Well, we believe in creating a workplace culture that we can be truly proud of, and we just don't see it around here." She said, "Oh my goodness, that's what I believe in as well." And they said, "But how? How can we do that?" She said, "Well, we don't know. I've just been to the CEO. He's not interested at all. He won't change his mind." Anyway, so as you know, in every fairy tale, who do our heroes go to see? Who do they normally go to see? The fairy. No, that's the fairy godmother. Yes, who else could they go to see? Who else would they might go? You need to help me fill in the gaps in the story. Who else might they go to see?
HR.
HR, yes, in the story. And see HR. Who else might? In fairy tales, who holds the wisdom? Who is it? The wizard, yes. Or in my story, of course, it's the crabby old woman that lives down in the basement. She's not HR because when I describe her, No. Because when I describe her,
fairy
she's
godmother,
not like
fine.
any HR person I know. Like she's really crabby and she's smelly and she's got a wart on her face, sort of about here. And she's anyway. This woman lives down around the basement. And so they said, let's go visit the crabby old woman down in the basement. She might know the answer because she has been known to hold the wisdom of the organisation. We don't know how, we don't know why, but that's the case. She holds the wisdom of the organisation. So down they went. And the senior woman, because she'd just been to visit the CEO, she's like, I should have taken my heels off, but anyway, so down they trot. And they're looking around the basement. I said, oh woman, where are you? And she came out, she said, what do you want? And it's sort of crabby voice. And they said, we want to know, how can we build the culture of our organisations that we can be really proud of? She said, oh, that's simple. Easy. They said, well, what is it? She said, ask them one great coaching question at a time. They're like, what do you mean? Ask them one great coaching question. She's got a really strong Australian accent, hasn't she? At a time. So our heroes didn't really understand that, but up they trotted back to their workplaces. And the old man the next day sidled up to the water cooler, and he was listening to this conversation was going on again. Management don't listen, blah 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 blah. And he remembered the old woman, and she said, "Ask them one great coaching question at a time." What do you think the old man asked these people? What could have been one of the great coaching questions that he could have asked? What do you think? Any ideas? Nice and quick, because you know how me write the story. Go on. What do you think you can do about it? Beautiful. What else could he have asked?
What's the problem?
What's the problem? Absolutely. What else could he have asked? He could have said something like, and in fact what he did, because I'm complaining about management and management this and management that, and he's like, if you were management, how would you do things differently? And in asking that question, they all went, and they gave that sort of response that people do when they've been asked a good question. They sort of went, no, I don't know. And then as he started asking these great coaching questions, their lights started to turn on. And they started to think about things, and they started to think about the way that their workplaces could actually be. Anyway, at about the same time, the young man went back to the toilet. The next day, he's not going to the toilet every single day. The young man went back to the toilet, and he looked at the TJF up on the wall, and he crossed it out, and with a marker pen, he said, "What are you particularly proud of?" He asked him one coaching question. What else could he have asked him? The job is. What else? What other questions could he have asked them? Could he have written on the wall? What do you like about this job? Beautiful reframe, okay? So in fact he thought, no, I